Okay, to begin your half double crochet into your foundation chain, what I did was I already did 11 foundation chains. And I made 11 as kind of an odd number, but it ends up being 10 half double crochets when I'm done. And the reason being is because I'm going to skip the first 2 chains when I start working my stitches because I need the proper height for my half double crochet. So I'm going to show you what that means in just a second. So to begin my half double crochet, you always yarn over before you insert your hook into anything. So when you're working a half double, you always insert your hook in the 3rd chain from your foundation. From your hook in your foundation chain. So you don't count the loop on your hook, you go 1, 2, and 3. And I always, if I'm doing fast working into foundation chains, I always do just the back loop. If I don't need a clean edge, if I'm going to seam, if I need a clean edge where I want the V's to show, I'll take the time and actually work into the bottom bump, which are these little dashes on the back side. But if I'm just doing a fast one, I'll just go into this back loop only. So that's what I'm going to show you now. So I insert my hook into the 3rd stitch from my hook, and I yarn over and I pull up a loop. Now I have 3 loops on my hook, and to finish my half double crochet, I'm going to yarn over and pull through. So what I just did is I created 2 half double crochets. And how I did that was I actually made one, and that's the one you just saw me make, and those chain 2s, the 2 chains that I skipped, are going to create a second one. This isn't a hard rule. Some people don't count these chain 2s as an actual stitch, but I think that it's bulky enough to be counted as a stitch, so I usually do. And you can see that because I have these 2 chains, this stitch isn't squished down. If I had started in the 2nd chain from my hook, this first half double crochet would be really short and I wouldn't be able to count those 2 chains as a stitch. So I'm going to continue working across my foundation chain. So I need to find my next loop, and you can either do that by turning your hook sideways and looking for your V, and there you can see your next V right here, where you can kind of pull on your work and you can kind of see that little hole that's being made by my back loop. So I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to insert my hook through that back loop and pull up the loop, and then yarn over and go through all 3. And this creates kind of a little bit higher than a single crochet but shorter than a double crochet. That's why it's a half double. So again, I'm going to yarn over and find that next stitch. I can see my loop right there. I insert into it and I pull through all 3 loops. And I'm going to keep on working into this back loop as I go across. Some people will work into the back loop and this almost where the front loop turns into the bottom bump, because you can see that this front loop goes through the center and then it comes out as the bottom bump. So some people will go through those 2 loops. Split my yarn. They'll go through those 2 and have those 2 on the hook when they make their foundation chain. However you want to do it. It's not, it doesn't have to be a certain way. Whatever is easiest for you. I like this way because it's just faster for me. I don't have to worry about catching all those extra loops. And most of the time I'm either seaming or I'm putting an edging on this. So when you're edging, you're going to actually work into those 2 loops anyway, so they're not going to be visible. And you can kind of see it almost creates like a foundation chain on the bottom if you leave that bottom bump unworked. If you do work it, what's going to happen is you'll only have this bottom chain here open, and that kind of leaves a little bit of a gap if you're going to do an edging into that also. So sometimes it's better to work in just that back loop if you're going to put an edging, because you'll have both of these loops to work through on your edging. So I've come to my last stitch, and if you're not sure you're at your last stitch, sometimes it's hard to tell because your slip knot might be a little bit weird or your last stitch might be scrunched down a lot, so you can count your V's. You turn and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 for my chain 2. So I'm going to make my last one, which is my 10, into that last chain, and now I have 10. So when I go back across, I'm going to show you how in my other tutorial what you're going to do to turn and get the correct number of stitches going back across. But that's how you half double crochet into your foundation.